Now, one of the most important areas to develop if you want to look jacked are your arms. After all, it's perfectly acceptable to be showing them off in most public occasions, and everyone at one point in time wants to fill in their sleeves. So with that in mind, here are the only 3 arm exercises you need to get some juicy pipes. Let's get to it. So in order to have an effective and well-balanced arm workout, you need to make sure you're dedicating workout volume to these 3 muscle groups. Firstly, the triceps. Secondly, the biceps. Lastly, the forearms and brachialis. Now, the brachialis isn't a part of the forearm muscle. It's actually a muscle that sits underneath the bicep. However, you'll see why I group those 2 muscle groups together. With that in mind, let's get to the first exercise. Okay, so first exercise we have is a unilateral cross-body tricep extension. And the reason being is because the triceps gives you the most bang for your buck since it takes up literally 2/3 of the upper arm. And I like performing this exercise unilaterally as opposed to bilaterally because I can stabilize myself better, I can adjust my grip on the fly. There's a lot of advantages with unilateral training in general. And the reason why stability is an advantage is it makes it easier for you to keep good form as you approach failure and recruit more high threshold motor units, or in other words, more muscle fibers when you're actually training the tricep. Just make sure to start with your weaker side and match the number of reps you get on the weaker side when you train the stronger side to minimize a muscular imbalance. And I prefer doing it cross body as opposed to straight down, as it's a lot easier to cheat if you're going straight down and just like push and put your body weight into it or kind of swing, as opposed to if you're doing cross body and you're keeping your shoulder blades back. It's easier to maintain good form here and not use momentum. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about which head of the triceps you're hitting because you're gonna be stimulating all 3 here. Now, to do this movement, you can use either a rope or a D handle, but what I personally like doing is actually just grabbing the cable directly. Now, I like using a hook grip for a better grip when I do this movement. You're essentially gonna be wrapping your thumb around the top of the cable and wrapping your remaining fingers over top. That is known as a hook grip. So when I'm setting up for this movement, you're gonna take a couple steps back from the cables until your shoulder's no longer internally rotated, instead in a neutral position. So you're actually gonna be behind the cable. A common error that I see is being right up next to the cable with your shoulder internally rotated, which is ultimately gonna limit your output and potentially hurt your shoulder. Now bring your elbows back by squeezing your shoulder blades back so they're pretty much by your side, and then flare your elbow just slightly out to around 30 degrees. Now you don't have to be like too precise with your elbow angle, but like just be like roughly out here where you're doing a cross-body extension rather than having your arm tucked to your side. Now take a deep breath and straighten the elbow completely until you reach lockout without moving your shoulders. Then let your elbows come back to where they started while keeping your shoulder blades back so that your shoulders don't come forward with the cables. Now, you also want to position yourself so that the cable goes straight through your arm. Now, the easiest way is by using a mirror to kind of position yourself, but you can kind of eyeball it too if you don't have it. Real quick, I want to announce that Able is going to be having a birthday sale in a little under a week on March 25th, so that's 6 days. So if you guys like the outfits I've been wearing, pretty much everything from like head to upper shin area is consistently Able gear. Even the draws. So I'm gonna put on screen some new releases that they're coming up with, but the birthday sale is gonna be literally up to 20% off for all men's and then up to 60% off for women's.
And keep in mind that on top of the birthday sale deals, you can still use code PATH for an additional 10% off at checkout, which will give you an extra discount while supporting my page.
But let's get back to the video. The second arm exercise we have is a unilateral dumbbell preacher curl. Now when people think about scary bicep exercises, they probably think of a preacher curl because of all those bicep tear videos. However, The main reason why people are getting bicep tears on this exercise has more to do with ego lifting than simply just doing this exercise. Now, the reason why I chose this exercise is because of the resistance profile of the movement being more length and focus. You see, the biceps have the best leverage to do elbow flexion, which is the act of bending your elbow between 0 to 80 degrees, which is essentially the bottom half of a curl. You want to choose an exercise where the hardest part of the exercise is in this lower half, which preacher curl is a perfect fit of that. Now, I prefer doing this movement unilaterally because, again, it allows you to be as stable as possible. And trust me, for an exercise like this, you want to be as stable as you can be. Now, first off, to set up, you want to position yourself so that your armpit is nestled firmly on this preacher curl rest, as well as your upper arm. And then with your other hand, I like to reach over the pad, firmly grip and like press my entire body into the pad to create more stability. And then with my feet, I like to push my heel into like a beam or something if possible, which is why I like the standing variation of the preacher curl better than the seated. And now that you're nice and tight, it's ready to begin the movement. So start by straightening your elbow all the way down while controlling the eccentric, meaning you're fighting the weight on the way back down, not just letting your arm drop. And flex your elbow up, closing the gap between the elbow angle. Now, you don't have to entirely close the gap or anything and bring your arm all the way here, because again, the most important part of this exercise is gonna be in the bottom half anyway. So as long as you're getting like above 80-ish degrees, you should be fine. Now keep in mind, you wanna avoid leaning all the way back here and having your elbow come off the pad, as this is where you start getting into ego lifting territory and your form starts breaking down and getting elbow injuries or bicep tears. And that's why I stress how important it is to stay stable and like really press yourself against this to avoid that urge to lean back as the weight gets heavier and you approach failure. And then once more, straighten your elbow out, controlling that eccentric, slowly going down, and then flex back up. Now, you don't want to avoid the bottom half just because it's harder. If you're staying up here and only curling in this range of motion, if you eventually do straighten your arm, you're probably creating like a muscular weakness in this lower bottom range of motion anyways. So one way to think of it is that can actually increase your risk of getting injured too. So you want to make sure you're actually straightening your elbow all the way, in my opinion. Now, if you would like more guidance on getting to your fitness goals, I highly recommend you apply to my exclusive one-on-one fitness coaching program, where I pretty much take the guesswork out of getting to your fitness goals. So I provide custom workout programs, give you recommendations when it comes to nutrition, as well as weekly check-ins to make sure that you're actually on track. So if that sounds interesting to you, apply in the link in the description. Let's get back to it. The last exercise we have is a back-supported dumbbell hammer curl. So the key thing with a hammer curl is the neutral wrist position. Now, normally when you think of a curl, you're probably thinking of your biceps. However, there are other muscle groups that aid in the act of elbow flexion or bending your elbow as well. And that is the brachialis as well as the brachioradialis, which is this upper forearm muscle right here. And the cool thing is, by simply going from a supinated position, so palms up, to a neutral wrist position, so thumbs up, the biceps are actually gonna be a lot less active when doing a curl. Now, a common gripe about a normal bicep curl is it's actually very easy to swing, especially as you go heavier. So the point of having this back support and using this preacher curl is to minimize the swinging that will occur. Once again, you're gonna be more stable. And you notice that all three exercises I've chosen have been fairly stable exercises. All right, so to perform this exercise, lean your back into a preacher curl back rest and use your feet to actively push into the preacher curl. Now flex the elbow while keeping that neutral wrist position, so thumbs pointed up, getting as high as you can. You see, it's important to get high because, as I mentioned earlier, the biceps have the best leverage to do elbow flexion in the bond position, so by proxy, the brachialis and brachioradialis will have better leverage in this higher degrees of elbow flexion, so in the upper half of the move. Try to also keep the back of your arm in contact with the backrest throughout the entire set. Now slowly straighten the elbow while keeping your back arm against the support, fighting all the way down, aiming for a 2-second count on the eccentric. And there we have it. The back-supported dumbbell hammer curl. You might be wondering about the rest of the muscles in your forearm. Well, they're gonna be indirectly trained through your grip strength for all 3 of these exercises. So as you progress in weights and reps for all these exercises, technically your grip is also going to be progressively overloaded because, well, it has to grip more, right? But do keep in mind that training grip strength is mostly an isometric type of exercise, meaning you're just holding the contraction. So if you want actual forearm exercises, make sure to check out this video right here. And that is the only 3 arm exercises you need to build some juicy pipes. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Leave a like to support my page. Hit subscribe if you want to see more videos to level up your physique. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.